Hello, and welcome to the 2025 New River Experience at the Summit Bechtel Reserve. We're excited for you to join us at the Paul R. Christian National High Adventure Base for one of the most exciting adventures in scouting. Tonight's agenda, we will be covering your requirements for participation, a basic itinerary, your arrival day schedule, and some information about your shakedown. We'll go over the equipment and gear you'll need for the trek, including what is provided by the summit. And we'll also touch on branding, scout connections, physical preparation, and finish up with some FAQs. Requirements for this trek. We want to make sure that you get the New River Experience Planning Guide out to all participants and their parents. You'll also need your annual health record, wilderness first aid CPR certifications. Everybody needs a BSA swim test and youth protection training. So we'll go over all of that in greater detail. The program supplement is going to be your primary planning guide, and it's an excellent resource as you get ready for your trek. You can follow the link on this page or find it on our website, and it is mobile friendly. On that same page, you'll also find the Summit Program Guide, which has general SBR info. Please download the New River Experience Program Supplement. Make sure everybody in your troop, including the parents, get it. It has detailed instructions, packing lists, helpful links, etc. Every participant and advisor is required to have a medical evaluation by a licensed physician within 12 months of their participation date. The required form and risk advisory can be found at the top link on this page, or if you're concerned about meeting medical requirements like body mass index, recent surgeries, chronic health conditions, please follow the second link on this page to get into contact with our medical team. For all vital medications, whether they need to be kept cold or not, we recommend that you bring twice what you think you need for the duration of the trek. So one batch goes with you on the trek, and one batch stays at the health lodge back at the summit in case any unforeseen accidents happen, you lose something. We will be able to accommodate medications that require cold storage, but you need to let both myself and the medical staff know ahead of time so we can make the right preparations for that. So please let us know about medical conditions before the trek. The more our staff know ahead of time, the better the outcome for everybody. For any special dietary restrictions like food allergies or religious restrictions, please follow the link on this page and fill out the appropriate form for New River Experience as soon as possible. The earlier you take care of that, the more time our dining hall and culinary staff has to make the right accommodations. So for allergies, please be sure to list whether they are airborne, contact, or ingestion. It's also important to let your guide staff know. So we ask each participant with dietary restrictions, please introduce yourself to the guides and culinary team on arrival day and figure out what accommodations have been made. Make sure we've got everything in order before you head out on trek. We currently offer gluten-free, non-dairy, and vegetarian menu options, but you got to let us know ahead of time. And if you have any further restrictions, you may need to bring supplemental food. And just to note, we do not do tree nuts in any of our menus for the New River Experience. All participants are required to complete the BSA swimmer's test prior to arrival at the summit, and you must bring this documentation with you. So please do not show up expecting to take your swim test on arrival day. We also recommend that if possible, participants complete the kayaking merit badge before arrival. So this isn't required, but having this baseline knowledge makes the trip go a lot smoother and makes it more enjoyable for everybody. So talking about swimming here, this isn't meant to scare you, but to prepare you. So people do fall out of boats. Swims in whitewater aren't all that common, but we want you to be ready for it. So we'll show you how to flip your boat back upright, climb back in, and continue on your trek. So, everybody needs to be classified a BSA swimmer, and we really want you to be a confident swimmer to come on this trek. The summit requires that at least one participant, which can be an adult or a youth, in each crew be currently certified in wilderness first aid or the equivalent and CPR from the American Heart Association, the American Red Cross, or an equivalent. So it's recommended that each crew have at least 2 participants certified in wilderness first aid CPR. That way, if unforeseen circumstances prevent your WFA trained person from attending, you'll have a second member with qualifications to cover your troop. So you must present current certification cards or copies of current cards upon check-in. So the summit will also accept these listed advanced levels of training, and a copy of the current license or certification must be shared with the summit during the registration process. So, if you have somebody that has wilderness first responder, outdoor emergency care, an EMT, military medic, nurse, or a doctor, things like that, that can cover you. Just please make sure you bring documentation of that certification. Youth protection training. So this should be familiar to all of us, but units must have at least 2 registered YPT trained adult leaders, 21 years of age or older. If you feel your group will have a challenge meeting YPT requirements, please email us at summit.program@scouting.org. Keep in mind, YPT is very important when you're figuring out your tenting situation, so you want to be thinking through that as you're planning your trek. And also, if you have female participants, make sure you have a female YPT trained adult. Arrival day. So you should plan to arrive at the summit between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. So you'll check in, do your medical recheck, and then head over to the Paul R. Christian National High Adventure Base Trek Camp over in Camp Alpha. So you'll meet your Trek camping coordinator, get checked into your tents, conduct your shakedown, and hold your chaplain's aid and outdoor ethics guide meetings. So dinner will then be from 5 to 6 at the dining hall there in Alpha, and evening programming may be available, but that really just depends on your arrival day. If we are not running program that evening, we'll have some other options for you, and you can talk to your Trek Camp coordinator about that once you get here. Okay, so our itinerary for this trek. So day 1, we covered check-in, shakedown, all that good stuff. Day 2, we're going to load up in the bus and drive to the south end of the New River Gorge National Park. We'll do a quick hike there at the put-in. There's a really beautiful waterfall all the way across the New River called Sandstone Falls. So we'll check out the waterfall. You'll learn to rig your kayaks that we call duckies, your inflatable kayaks. And then we'll do kind of what we call ducky school, which is introduction to paddling. Basically, you're going to practice self-rescues, learn to kind of control your craft, and then we'll start heading downstream. So that first day is going to be mostly class 1 and 2 stuff, maybe a little bit of class 3 depending on water level, but it's really nice way to kind of get a feel for your boat and figure out how to handle your craft. And then after that, the river just gets progressively bigger, more technical, more fun. So it's a really nice progression. Your last day on the water, you're going to swap out your duckies for a guided whitewater raft, generally a 16-foot raft, which will hold 8 participants plus the guide. And that's the lower New River Gorge. That's the really big stuff. So after you do that, you'll come back to the summit and ride the Alexander's Eagle Flight zip line. And then day 7 is departure day. Okay, so for shakedown, we'll go a little bit more in depth here. When we do shakedown, you're going to be given 2 dry bags. One of those will be a really big dry bag, 110 liters, and one will be a small 5-liter bag. So they are significantly larger than backpacking bags, but that doesn't mean you should bring the kitchen sink with you. We still encourage you to use compression sacks to keep things nice and compact, and we'll show you the proper way to seal up your bags. So in the 110-liter bag, you're going to pack everything except what you're going to sleep in that night and the river gear you'll be wearing for day 1 of kayaking. So these bags will be packed into the gear boat or the trailer. And then when you wake up, you're going to pack your sleep clothes, sleeping bags, and pillows into dry bags before you hit the river. So the smaller 5-liter dry bags are yours to keep, and these will be for items you might need on the river. So that would be like sunscreen, maybe a waterproof camera, your water bottle, etc. So the 110-liter camp bags will not be accessible to you while you're out kayaking. So if you're going to need it during the day on the river, don't put it in the big camp bag. Okay, so some equipment. So the summit will issue this equipment upon arrival, and you will check it back in at the end of your trek. Please give this equipment the same care you would your personal stuff, as it will be used by the troop that follows you. So we will issue you those dry bags, PFDs, helmets, and paddles, splash jackets if we need them, boats, first aid kits, food, cookware, and kitchen supplies, toilets, and drinking water. We may also issue wetsuits if we have some unseasonably cold weather, but that is really rare, so wouldn't plan on that. You are responsible to bring the rest of the equipment and personal gear. So again, all this must fit in a 110-liter dry bag with the exception of your tent and camp chair. We'll put that stuff in separate dry bags just to kind of keep sand off of your clothes and sleep gear. So you will need a tent, camp chair, a sleeping bag, preferably with a compression sack, a sleeping pad, and a pillow if you desire. We don't bring cots on the trip as they take up a ton of space, though we will have cots at one of our camps that we provide for you. You can also bring a pocket knife or multi-tool, a headlamp with extra batteries. You'll need a simple mess kit, basically a knife, fork, spoon or spork, and a cup or a mug, and a plate. We provide the cooking equipment, so no need to bring a full mess kit with like a frying pan or anything like that. Um, a quick dry towel and a bandana are good items to have along. And I like to bring a handful of gallon Ziploc bags. They're great for organizing your dry bag and provide a little bit of extra waterproof insurance in case you don't quite seal that bag properly. You can also bring fishing equipment to use while you're at camp. So you will not be fishing as you kayak down the river. Um, you'll leave that with your camp gear. So two-piece or travel rods are preferred to make packing a little bit easier. Camping on the river. So you'll need to provide your own tents for this experience. We recommend 4-person dome tents, but we understand that YPT constraints may mean that smaller tents allow you to be more flexible with tenting assignments. On arrival day, your third night on the river, and departure day, the summit will provide you with wall tents and cots that just kind of stay put in place at those campsites. Um, Hammocks are not advised. There's usually at most camps there's room for a hammock or two, but there's definitely not room for everybody to be hammock camping. So if you just can't stand to sleep on the ground, that's okay, but you might have to get a little bit creative with where you hang that hammock. And again, these campsites just don't have enough good trees to hang a hammock for everybody. Clothing. So basically you want 2 sets of river clothes and 2 sets of camp clothes. So when you work through your planning guides, you'll notice that the clothing list focuses on layering. So, your classic base layer, mid layer, shell, etc. So this is to sort of have you covered in inclement weather or an unusually cold trek. The reality is for our June and July treks, you're likely going to be dealing with highs anywhere from the upper 70s to the 90s. And sun protection will be more of a factor than staying warm for most treks. I prefer long sleeves and long pants to keep myself protected from the sun. Just some kind of lightweight hiking or fishing pants. Try it out. Some people don't like swimming in that stuff. I've been doing it for a long time, and I isn't a big deal for me. So your mileage may vary. But sunburn is our #1 injury. And every year we have to remove people from the trek for sunburn. And those duckies, especially the legs, we tend to see get burned pretty easily. You're getting splashed. It's hard to keep sunscreen on. So really, I recommend you look into wearing some long pants. Whatever you choose, make sure it's quick drying synthetics or even some lightweight merino wool is a really good option. This goes for camp clothes as well because It rains a lot here. If you get caught in an evening shower and you're wearing cotton, that's going to stay damp for the whole rest of the trek. So a set of rain gear and a light jacket or fleece will round out your clothing needs. Rain gear over fleece should have you covered in case you happen to get a chilly evening in camp. You should bring a baseball cap or wide-brimmed hat that you can wear under your helmet. And having a pair of camp shoes with dry socks is a great bit of luxury on a river trip. Sneakers are a great option. We'll talk about camp shoes a little bit later. And I like to bring an extra trash bag to store my shoes in, and that kind of keeps the rest of my clothes and sleeping bag and stuff from getting covered in sand. River footwear. Make sure you choose something you can swim in that will stay on your feet. So really this just means no Crocs or flip-flops while on the water. So I cannot tell you how many Crocs I've seen drifting away through the rapids over the years. They're just not going to stay on your feet if you swim whitewater. So most people prefer something like Chacos, Tevas, or Keens. Lots of professional river guides wear closed-toed river shoes like Astrals because they provide a little extra protection and they have great traction. But please don't feel like you need to run out and buy specialized river shoes for this trek. An old pair of gym shoes are perfectly acceptable and are a great budget option. Just, make sure you try them out before you come on the trek just to make sure you're comfortable swimming in them. Some people are, some people aren't. You also need to have a pair of dry shoes for camp. So you definitely don't want to be wearing your wet river shoes 24/7 as this can lead to all kinds of problems. So make sure you're taking care of your feet. So camp shoes need to be something you're comfortable walking in for up to a mile. We do a hike on one day of the trek. It's on the road, but it's about a mile down to an old ghost town in the gorge here. Um, and don't forget a few pairs of dry socks. So it's really nice when you get off the river, clean your feet up, put dry socks and shoes on, and life will be good. River gear. So we've already talked about that personal dry bag to stash, sunscreen, extra snacks, stuff like that. Locking carabiners. So we recommend you bring 2 locking carabiners with you. Those can be screw gate, auto lockers, whatever you want, just so they lock. We will not allow any non-locking carabiners on the river. They present a safety hazard. A boat goes upside down, that could be attached to your boat and then become attached to your life jacket. So we definitely need to avoid that. You can also lose your gear on those. So 2 locking carabiners is what we recommend. A water bottle, an Nalgene's a great option. A lot of people like to have like a harness on those out of either like paracord or webbing. That little plastic connector that attaches to the lid of most Nalgene's can come off pretty easily if your boat goes upside down, which I've learned the hard way more times than I care to admit. Emergency medication, you need to have that out on the water. So EpiPens, asthma inhalers, insulin, nitro pills. But you shouldn't have that on your person. You really need to give that to your guides. Your trip leader will have a much more secure Pelican dry box to keep that stuff in. So hand that over to them. Waterproof cameras, another great thing you can bring. And then sunglasses. These don't have to be expensive, and really they probably shouldn't be expensive, but I do recommend polarized lenses. So, even like the cheaper polarized fishing glasses you can get from Walmart are going to cut down on a lot of glare, but that polarization is also going to let you read the river better. You're going to be able to kind of see a little bit below the surface, and you might see a few rocks that you would otherwise have missed without them. But you definitely want a set of chums or some kind of retaining straps on those sunglasses. PFDs, so personal flotation devices. So the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources requires the use of a Coast Guard approved Type 5 PFD for all commercial whitewater. So this PFD must have a pillow attached to the back of the jacket when used in a commercial setting. So personal PFDs will not be allowed on this trek as per West Virginia state law. So I'm sorry if you have a great kayaking jacket, we can't let you use it, and that is according to the state of West Virginia. You can bring your own whitewater helmet or kayak paddle if you want, but please reach out to me first to get approval to make sure it's going to work for what we're doing. So when you're deciding what to bring on this trip, keep this in mind. If it's going to break your heart or your wallet to lose it, don't bring it on the river. So the young man in this photo is about to have an out-of-boat experience at Class 3 Surprise Rapid. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it could happen to anybody. So I've seen wedding rings come off of fingers, necklaces make their way up and over helmets, and dry bags open up and deposit car keys and cell phones to the bottom of the river. So don't bring that kind of stuff with you. Lock your valuables in your car, and we will collect your car keys and lock them up at base camp before you hit the river. Again, talk with river staff about securing any necessary medications. On night 5 of your trek, you will have the opportunity to do some branding. So make sure that you bring this stuff with you or you purchase it at the trading post on arrival day. Once you hop on the bus on the morning of day 2, you're not going to have the ability to get anything for branding. So we'll provide the heat source, branding irons, safety equipment, and supervision for that. After rafting the lower New River Gorge, you will have the opportunity to ride the Alexander Eagles Flight zip line. So this zip is over 3,000 feet long, and some people reach speeds of 60 miles an hour. It stretches across Tridave Lake here at the summit. So closed-toed shoes are required to ride this zip line, and please note that it may be closed due to weather. Physical preparation. So this trek involves 10 plus miles of paddling per day. So please don't expect a lazy river float trip. If you have access to kayaks, try to get your crew in them as much as possible leading up to your arrival at the summit. Canoes will also work great for training. If you don't have access to boats, work on your back, core, arms, and cardio. If you get a strong headwind while you're out there on the New River, any bit of physical preparation you've done will be much appreciated. So swimming's also great exercise, and you should be a confident swimmer to go on this trek. So hit the pool if you have the opportunity to. So focus on technique and learn as much as you can about whitewater paddling. This is a classic example of what not to do in a rapid. Holding your paddle above your head in a rapid is the fastest way to end up in the drink. Scout connections. So if you have extra spots or have a scout that wants to attend but can't go with their unit, Scout Connections is a great tool to help everyone come and enjoy the summit. So it makes it easy to post your availability and link up with different crews from around the country. So there are some active posts on this page right now. You can just scan the QR code here and find out more. Okay, so a few FAQs here to close things out. Probably the most common question we get for the New River experience is, am I going to fall out of the boat? The simple answer is we don't know. There are too many variables that go into this to give a blanket answer. Skill level, physical fitness, balance, water level, etc. So that's part of what makes whitewater so exciting and fun. It really comes down to the individual. What I will say is that most people don't come out of the boat unless they want to during a swimming break. It's rarely somebody paddling aggressively and using good technique that takes an unintended swim. Also, keep in mind that even if you do swim in a rapid, the odds are still in your favor. So anything above a class 3, you're going to be in a boat with an experienced guide. Of course, whitewater has inherent risks, but usually what happens is that you just climb back in your boat and you and your friends have a great story to laugh about that night around the campfire. Okay, fishing is another one. New River is an excellent smallmouth bass fishery. We've also got catfish, rock bass, walleye, hybrid striped bass, and even a few muskie. So you won't be able to fish from the boats during the day, but there will be opportunities to fish from camp. Anybody 15 or older is required to have a West Virginia fishing license. You do not need a trout stamp or national forest stamp. So when you're looking online, you can disregard those two items. Licenses and equipment are not provided, so that's your responsibility if you want to fish. Take care of that before you arrive at the summit. As far as equipment goes, don't bring your most expensive setup. Your rods and tackle will be moving from camp to camp with the rest of your gear on a trailer and could be potentially broken or lost, so plan accordingly. And you can contact me directly if you want more in-depth info on fishing gear recommendations. What about cell phones? That's another big one. Part of the appeal of this experience is the opportunity to unplug and unwind without constant screen time. I also understand you're going to want to take pictures of your experience, and that's totally fine. As we said before, if it's going to break your heart, if your phone gets lost or soaked, don't bring it with you. When I'm on the river, I do bring my phone along in a dry box as a backup emergency communication device if the radio happens to be down. But I'll tell you that even with top of the line protective equipment, the river is really rough on electronics. I go through way more phones than I should. Another part of it is that guides simply don't have room in their dry boxes for a dozen cell phones if everyone brings one. So bring your phones at your own risk. Um, so photos, there is a third party company called Whitewater Photography that takes photos of the trips as they go down the river. That's where most of the shots in this webinar came from. They set up at the best rapids and really get some great action shots and close-ups. You can check these out after the trip. They're free to look at and a little bit more to take home with you. Okay, folks, so that wraps up our FAQs. Once again, here is the link to Garden Ground Outfitters. Check us out if you want to get custom crew shirts made. There's just a few days left to do that. You can also order gear ahead of time and pick it up when you arrive at the summit if you so choose. So we're really excited for this river season. It's looking like it's going to be a good one. There's already some folks getting out on the water this week. So do all the paddling practice you can. Don't forget your sunscreen, and we will see you soon.